The regular meeting of the Bellflower City Council is called to order on Monday, March 27, 2023 at 5:43 p.m. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Coops,
Present.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamada, Councilmember Dutton,
Here.
Mayor Santinez.
Here. Is there a motion to excuse the absence of Mayor Pro Tem Hamada?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Coop, seconded by Councilmember Sanchez to excuse the absence of Mayor Pro Tem Hamada. Without objection, that will be the order. Closed session, Mr. Stewart.
This is Conference of Legal Counsel Initiation of Litigation. We have one case. It's Hard Times Billiards, located at 175450 Bellflower Boulevard.
Does anyone have any recusals or conflicts?
Yeah, Mayor, I need to recuse myself from item 3A due to a property conflict within 500 feet.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, there's no one here in attendance from the public. With that, we will now recess to closed session. Good evening, Bellflower. I'm calling the meeting, the regular meeting of the Bellflower City Council on Monday, March 27, 2023 at 7:03 p.m. Back to open session. We are reconvening to open session. There's no reportable action that came out of the closed session that was held previously. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Coops,
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamada, Councilmember Dutton,
Here.
Mayor Santinez.
Here. Is there a motion to excuse the absence of Mayor Pro Tem Hamada?
I'll
So
make-
moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Coop, seconded by Councilmember Danton to excuse the absence of Mayor Pro Tem Hamada. Without objection, that will be the order. Tonight's invocation will be led by myself, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Jim De La Longa, Director of Economic Development. Please rise. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all the blessings you have bestowed upon us. We thank you for the gift of life, the gift of family, the gift of this beautiful city called the City of Bellflower. We thank you for giving us the opportunity to serve the city. We thank you for giving us wonderful staff. We thank you for giving us our dedicated military. We thank you for giving us our first responders. Please keep all them safe as they keep us safe. Also tonight, please bless those who are homeless, those who are unemployed, underemployed, those who are ill, and those who have recently died. Please give them the blessings. Please comfort all those who provide care for them and give them the healing that they so deserve. As we gather tonight to discuss the business of the City of Bellflower, please guide us, enlighten us, and give us the wisdom to decide what is best for our city. We ask all in this your mighty name. Amen.
Please face the flag, put your right hand over the heart, and join with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. De La Longa. City Council announcements, let me start. The City of Bellflower and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department have teamed up with Kaiser Permanente to host a Drug Take Back Initiative event on Saturday, April 22nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Kaiser Permanente Bellflower Medical Office at 9400 East Rosecrans Avenue in the City of Bellflower. The collection site entrance will be indicated on Clark Avenue. Local residents can turn in unused or expired medication anonymously for proper disposal by the Drug Enforcement Administration. The event is free to the public. For more information, please visit www.dea.gov or www.kp.org. Councilmember Coops.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City of Bellflower invites 3rd through 6th grade students as of the 2022 and 23 school year attending any school in Bellflower to participate in an art competition on Saturday, May 6th. It'll be held from 9 until 11:30 a.m., and it'll be at the Town Center Plaza. That's located at 16521 Aidenmore Avenue here in Bellflower. Participants must pre-register by visiting the Parks and Recreation page of the city's website, and that's at www.bellflower.org. Or you can walk in and register also at Carruthers, Sims, or Thompson Park during regular park hours. Registration will close on Thursday, April 6, 2023. If you have any more questions or information can be provided at 562 area 804-1424, extension 2103. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dan. Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Bellflower. For Spanish-speaking Bellflower business owners and residents, the city continues to work with Association Emprendedoras to host a free 8-week program that will cover how to start, grow, and operate a business. The spring 2023 course will be held in person with sessions every Thursday beginning on April 13th through June 1st at Bellflower City Hall, second floor, green room. Registration is open and can be found on the city's website at www.bellflower.org. Ahora, para los dueños de negocios y residentes de Bellflower que hablan español, la ciudad continúa trabajando con la Asociación Emprendedoras para organizar un programa gratuito de 8 semanas que cubriría cómo iniciar, crecer y operar un negocio. El curso Primavera 2023 se llevará a cabo en persona con sesiones cada jueves a partir del 13 de abril hasta el 1 de junio en Bellflower City Hall, en el segundo piso, en el cuarto Green Room. La inscripción aún está abierta y se puede encontrar en el sitio web de la ciudad en la www.bellflower.org. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Muchas gracias, señor Sánchez. Thank you, Victor. Councilmember Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor. The Bellflower Chamber of Commerce invites businesses, service clubs, and the community to join their morning monthly mingle, which will take place tomorrow morning, Tuesday, March 28th, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. For more information, you can please call the Bellflower Chamber of Commerce at 562-867-1744. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ray. Tonight, we are so blessed to have 3 proclamations. We're going to make a proclamation on first, the National Vietnam War Veterans Day proclamation. And we have one of our local veterans, John Peters, to receive the proclamation. Second, we have the National Women's History Month proclamation to be received by the Miss Bellflower Court and the president of Miss Bellflower Pageant. And also, last but not the least, the American Red Cross Awareness Month proclamation to be received by Mr. Dale Spiegel. Before I do the first proclamation, let me just read a short bio on the recipient, Mr. John Peters. Mr. John Peters is a Vietnam veteran and a 30-year resident of the city of Bellflower. John joined the U.S. Army in 1966, where he trained as an infantry soldier. He arrived in Vietnam on December 5, 1967. He served as a shotgunner and on supply convoys, was a member of the 11th Infantry Brigade American Division, and survived the 1968 Tet Offensive. John served 2 years, 7 months, and 4 days in active duty until he was discharged on April 28, 1969. John humbly describes himself as a simple, unaccomplished Irish kid from Boston, without the Boston accent, who kept his head down and prayed a lot. John is currently an active member of the Vietnam Veterans for Foreign Wars, Post 7243 in Hawaiian Gardens. So with that, I'd like to invite my fellow council members to the riser, and we're going to start with Mr. John Peters for the presentation. John, thank you so much. And we spent so much time doing this proclamation, so I'm going to read this with your indulgence. I'm just going to read this in entirety. In appreciation, the city of Bellflower proclaims National Vietnam War Veterans Day. Whereas the Vietnam War Veterans Recognition Act of 2017 was signed into law, designating every March 29 as National Vietnam War Veterans Day. And whereas this national commemoration was authorized by Congress, established under the Secretary of Defense, and launched by the President to thank and honor our nation's Vietnam veterans and their families for their service and sacrifice, with distinct recognition of former prisoners of war and families of those still listed as missing in action. And whereas the Vietnam War is a story of service members of different backgrounds and creeds who came together to complete a daunting mission to serve the country they love. They placed themselves in harm's way to save a friend, fought hour after hour, and day after day to preserve the liberties we hold dear. And whereas 11 years of combat caused thousands to return home bearing shrapnel and scars and burdened with the invisible wounds of post-traumatic stress with memories that would never fade. And whereas on March 29, 1973, the United States Military Assistance Command was established, and the last U.S. combat troops departed Vietnam and Hanoi, released the last acknowledged prisoners of war. And whereas the Department of Veterans Affairs estimates that today there are more than 7 million U.S. Vietnam veterans living in America and abroad, along with 10 million families of those who served during this time frame. Now, therefore, I, Sonny R. Santa Ynez, Mayor of the City of Bellflower, do hereby proclaim March 29, 2023 as National Vietnam War Veterans Day and encourage the community to pay tribute to the fallen, the missing, the wounded, and those who served and those who awaited to return. We honor their proud legacy with our deepest gratitude. Signed, Mayor Sonny R. Santa Ynez, Mayor Pro Tem Mayor Raymond Hamada, Councilmember Ray Danton, Councilmember Dan Coops, and Council Member Victor Sanchez. John, we cannot thank you enough for your service.
Thank you.
There's no such thing as freedom is not free. And with all the sacrifice of you and all the veterans, we're enjoying all this freedom. And so we cannot thank you enough for your service. And on behalf of the City of Bellflower, I'm proud to present this proclamation to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Want to say something, John?
I just want to say, I wanted to thank the City Council and the City of Bellflower for bringing the Vietnam Veterans Wall here 5 years ago. I spent all last week at the City of Hawaiian Gardens, where we had that same wall, and my feet are a little sore, but it was worth it. I got to meet a lot of my friends and my neighbors. And also, this jacket I'm wearing is my father's World War II Navy jacket. So it's somewhere in the vicinity of 80 years old. Again, many thanks to the City Council and all the good folks of Bellflower. Thank you again.
Thank you, John. Next one, I'd like to invite the president of Miss Bellflower and the Miss Bellflower Court. All right. Thank you so much for coming. And when we were looking around for the recipient of this proclamation, you came first in my mind. So, in appreciation, the City of Bellflower proclaims Women's History Month. Whereas in 2023, the theme for National Women's History Month is celebrating women who tell their own stories. The National History Month Alliance determined it was an honor to women who have devoted their lives and talents to producing art, pursuing truth, and reflecting the human condition decade after decade. Whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas American women have played and continue to play a critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of life of the nation by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside of the home. And whereas American women have played a unique role throughout the history of the nation by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force of the nation. And whereas American women were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation. And whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background serve as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement and serve our country courageously in the military. And whereas American women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, and the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially the peace movement, which create a more fair and just society for all. Whereas, despite these conditions, the role of American women in history has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, and study of American history. Now, therefore, I, Sunny R. Santa Ynez, Mayor of the City of Bellflower, do hereby proclaim March 2023 as National Women's History Month. Signed, Mayor Sunny R. Santa Ynez, Mayor Pro Tem Raymond Hamada, Councilmember Ray Danton, Councilmember Dan Coops, and Councilmember Victor A. Sanchez. So I'm very proud to provide this proclamation to you because women, as the saying goes, for every successful woman, there's a woman behind. So, and I really appreciate that. And if my wife hears that, she would really applaud. And I really mean that. So you guys changed lives. I've been watching you, especially the pageant that you've been doing over the years. And you are wonderful in terms of transforming little girls into adults. And that's how I see it. You train them well. So with that, thank you so much. Say something?
Yes, of course.
Of course, absolutely.
I just want to thank you on behalf of the Miss Bellflower pageant and for all the women in our community that you continuously serve. Thank you. And on behalf of letting women tell their stories, I'm going to pass it on to our Miss Bellflower Queen, Naraya.
Hi everyone, my name is Nurai. I'm the Miss Bellflower Queen of 2023. I just want to say, being an individual within this community for many years, just being able to grow within this pageant and also just being able to get involved within my community definitely has opened my eyes to see all different opportunities and be able to go down the different pathways that do open up for me by going through this pageant and just taking that step forward and not being afraid to get involved within the community. Just definitely opened my eyes, and I look forward to being able to inspire and be that role model for all the young girls within our community.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, okay?
Thank you.
On to the next pageant.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, okay?
Good one.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. It's getting warm? Okay, all right. All right, I'd like to invite Mr. Dale Spiegel, a board member of the American Red Cross and also a community volunteer leader.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Spiegel, I think I deserve to read this proclamation because I really mean about what the American Red Cross does. In appreciation, the City of Bellflower proclaims American Red Cross Awareness Month, whereas since 1917, the American Red Cross serving Greater Los Angeles, Greater Long Beach, Rio Hondo, and South Bay has provided relief assistance to families by providing shelter, food, emotional support, and other necessities. Whereas in 1917, the American Red Cross serving Greater Long Beach, Rio Hondo, and the South Bay has provided family communications and other support to active duty members of the military. And since 1917, the American Red Cross serving Greater Long Beach, Rio Hondo, and South Bay has trained individuals locally in CPR, first aid, aquatics, babysitting, wilderness first aid, and water safety courses. And since 1917, the American Red Cross serving Greater Long Beach, Rio Hondo, and South Bay has reconnected families worldwide separated by war or armed conflict. And since 1941, the American Red Cross serving Greater Long Beach, Rio Hondo, and South Bay has provided life-saving blood products for patients in need. Whereas Red Cross Month is a month-long observance recognizing the American Red Cross as a true reflection of the humanitarian and volunteer spirit. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Sonny R. Santa Ynez, Mayor of the City of Bellflower, in recognition of a century of service to our community, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2023 to be Red Cross Month and urge all citizens to show their support to the American Red Cross serving Greater Long Beach, Rio Hondo, and South Bay. Signed, Sonny R. Santa Ynez, Mayor Pro Tem Raymond Hamada, Councilmember Ray Danton, Councilmember Dan Coops, and Councilmember Victor Sanchez. I've been involved in American Red Cross, and one thing that I can say to describe, I could be wrong, there's two words for me to describe the Red Cross. One is they save lives. That to me says it all in terms of what they do, especially the blood drive. If you are not a blood donor, I would encourage you to be a blood donor. They're there in terms of calamities. They're always in the forefront in terms of helping others. So I think the American Red Cross deserve this proclamation this month. So with that, Mr. Spiegel,
Yes.
I'm glad to present this proclamation to you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for all the work that you do.
Thank you very much.
Say something?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I don't really have to do a full sales pitch because the mayor has already done it for me. But I do thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, community, because we can't survive without volunteers and donors, including blood donors, but money. It's an honor to be part of this meeting because Women's History Month reflects Clara Barton as the founder of the American Red Cross, one of the great women-founded institutions. And so much of our work over the history has been with the military, the veterans, the active duty military families. So the coincidence here is awesome. It's great. And, as the mayor said, can always use blood donors, can always use youth volunteers. 10 days ago, we had a smoke alarm installation project in Artesia where we had 75 volunteers, including 25 youth volunteers that went out to more than 100 homes, installed more than 300 smoke alarms. Wow. And, if you look at last night's news, apartment fire in El Monte, you lose fewer people if you've got the smoke alarms. And if you saw the Channel 4 news this morning, you saw the survivors wrapped in Red Cross blankets. The volunteers get up in the middle of the night to go out and help people have a place to go and a future. So thank you again.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So one more time, thank you again for all the recipients of the proclamation. Thank you for all the service that you provide the city.
Really?
All right, our next item on the agenda is item number 10, public comments. Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, this is the time set aside for the public to address the city council on matters not listed on the agenda. Anyone wishing to address the city council should come to the podium, be recognized by the mayor, and state your name for the record. If you wish to address the city council on an agenda item, you may do so by approaching the podium as we review that particular item. You'll be given 3 minutes to address the city council.
Anyone who'd like to speak on a non-agenda item, please sign in State your name for the record and speak directly to the microphone, please.
Lee Squire, City of Downey, American Legion, Brea Post 181, Vietnam era veteran, U.S. Army, 1967. I want to thank the city mayor and the city council tonight for having that proclamation on behalf of my brothers and sisters, the Vietnam veterans of Bellflower. I also want to personally thank Travis, who brought that to the attention of you, the mayor, and you, the city council. Like I said, that was a true honor for me. I also was ironically, at the same place the gentleman was, which was the mobile wall, the Vietnam Wall. Mm-hmm. So they had a display case and they had a Purple Heart. I took a picture and I actually sent it to Travis to forward that picture on to you council members. I'd like to read it into the record. After the wall was built, visitors began unexpectedly leaving items of remembrance. A Purple Heart, a U.S. military decoration awarded to those wounded or killed in combat, is thought to be the first item left at the wall during the construction of the memorial. More than 400,000 items have been left since 1982. So again, I took a picture of this Purple Heart and I sent it to Travis, and I asked that it be forwarded to each of you council members. I also ask each one of you and everybody in here on Wednesday, March the 29th, to just take a moment and remember those of us who served in the Vietnam War. It was a very ugly time in America. And remember, at the same time you had the Vietnam War, you had the Civil Rights Movement. For the young ladies who would have been in here, I'd have told them that a woman who deserves recognition was a black woman named Vivian Malone, and it was known as the stand at the schoolhouse door. It's when George Wallace, a white racist governor of Alabama, blocked her attendance. President Kennedy issued United States of America versus George Wallace. He refused to allow the black girl and a black boy there. He weaponized the Alabama National Guard. They walked in there, stood side by side, and the young lady went through those doors. So again, thank you very much, City Council, and thank you for honoring my Vietnam brothers and sisters of the city of Bellflower. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Squires. Anyone else?
My name is Genevieve Diaz. I would like to speak about the traffic signal at Flower and Woodruff Avenue. I would like to ask the council to consider extending the time delay that it switches directions. And I would also like you to consider putting in left-only turn signals. It would help prevent a lot of accidents. There's maybe at least 3 to 4 a month, I believe. So I would like you to consider that, please. Secondly, I would like to discuss coyotes. I know that they're classified as endangered. I respectfully ask that the council consider relocating them. You can relocate them if you get written permission from the Fish and Wildlife game. We consider our pets our fur babies, and they're members of our families. We love and cherish them. For some, they are emotional support animals. For others, they are service animals or simply a loyal companion. The coyotes are preying on our family animals. They should be able to go into our backyards freely without our fear of them getting eaten or attacked by a coyote. I especially worry about elderly citizens that have animals. They cannot always go outside with their animal to relieve themselves or to play. They can't chase after coyotes and shoo them away. It can be a danger to the elderly citizens as well. Also, when we take walks, there's been instances that I've seen on Facebook where coyotes are following people with small dogs, where they have to pick them up and carry them rather than let them exercise. To hear the animals being attacked and killed by coyotes is awful. I've heard it on Facebook. Sandra has recorded a couple of times. It's just awful. Animals should not have to go through that. We, as Bellflower residents, we register our animals, so we follow the laws. We should have some rights to protect our animals. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like
Yeah.
Mr. Hockman to talk to her. We have some pretty active and proactive things going on with coyotes. I'd like him to update her in the lobby.
Have you talked to Sandra lately?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, talk to her. But see that gentleman at the end, yeah.
And also, can you have Mr. Gorecki look into the traffic signal? Okay, I got it. All right,
Yeah, that signal is going to be redesigned as part of the Metro rail system.
okay.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, there being none, we move on to item 11A. Mr. Stewart.
This is a public hearing. Consideration possible action to conduct a public hearing to receive comments on the Home American Rescue Plan, Home ARP allocation plan, and adopt resolution number 23-10. A resolution approving the Home ARP allocation plan, authorizing the city manager to submit the Home ARP allocation plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And with the staff report is our consultant, Agnesa. I'm going to hope I get this name right, Ananikian, right? Got it.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Today I'll be presenting the city's draft home ARP allocation plan. In 2021, under the American Rescue Plan Act, also known as ARP, Congress appropriated $5 billion as a one-time supplement to the Home ARP program, specifically to address homelessness assistance and supportive service needs. The city of Bellflower was allocated just over $1.3 million in Home ARP funds. For the city to access these funds, they must develop and submit a Home ARP allocation plan as part of a substantial amendment to the city's fiscal year 21-22 annual action plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. HUD must receive the Home ARP allocation plan by March 31st, 2023, and all Home ARP funds must be expended by September 30th, 2030. Therefore, should the city find a need to, it may update its intended use of funds via a substantial amendment process. Home ARP funds must be used on eligible activities that will benefit individuals or families of specific qualifying populations. Those qualifying populations are homeless, as defined in Section 103 of the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. Under this definition, this may include an individual or family who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence, who are living in a supervised, publicly or privately operated shelter, who will immensely lose their housing, including housing they own, rent, or live in regardless of paying rent, among others. Those who are at risk of homelessness, as defined in Section 401 of McKinney-Vento. Under this category are participants whose income are below 30% of the median income for the geographic area. And for a family of four, a qualifying income would be $35,750. Those who have insufficient resources immediately available to attain housing. Those who live in a hotel or motel, have moved frequently because of economic reasons, is exiting an institution, is living in the home of another because of economic hardships, among other things. Those who are fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, or human trafficking. Part of other populations where providing supportive services or assistance would prevent a family's homelessness or would serve those with the greatest risk of housing instability. Participants under this category may include individuals or families who have previously been qualified as homeless, are currently temporarily housed and need additional housing assistance, or supportive services to avoid return to homelessness, or households who have an annual income of less than or equal to 30% of the area median income and are experiencing severe cost burden. Lastly, veterans and families that include a veteran member that also meet one of the previously mentioned criteria. Home ARP funds must be used for one or any of the established eligible activities, which include administration and planning costs, which are subject to a 15% cap of allocation, acquisition, rehabilitation, and construction of affordable rental housing, tenant-based rental assistance, supportive services, which include case management, employment assistance, outreach services, and more. Acquisition and development of a non-congregate shelter, and lastly, nonprofit operating and capacity building assistance, which is also subject to a 5% of the allocation category. As a requirement of HUD was for the city to engage in a consultation process with agencies and service providers whose clientele include the home ARP qualifying populations to identify any unmet needs and gaps in housing. Outreach was conducted with local service providers working with qualifying populations. The city provided a survey link to provide feedback. The city also did regular follow-ups with stakeholders to ensure that responses were received. As part of the consultation process, respondents' feedback showed that the development and preservation of affordable housing is a top priority need to address the homeless population. Others identified priorities included tenant-based rental assistance for prevention of homelessness and supportive services. Stakeholders also highlighted the important role of supportive services like case management, legal assistance, mental health services, which play a role in addressing homelessness. In the consultation with LASA, it was noted that the importance of having a balance of resources. The city is proposing to distribute its home ARP funds to 2 activities: administration and planning, and the development of affordable permanent supportive housing. The city is proposing to use the allowable 15% limit for administration and planning, which is just over $195,000, and the remaining 85% of the allocation towards the development of affordable permanent supportive housing. With that, our recommendation tonight is to open the public hearing, take testimonial and documentary evidence, and after considering the evidence, adopt resolution number 2310. Alternatively, discuss and take other action related to this item. And that completes our presentation. I'm available for questions.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation. It was very clear. Can you bring up the slide? I think eligibilities, I think is the title, maybe the second or third. There you go. Okay.
Yes.
So we're focusing on affordable rental housing. That's the key, right? Reading the materials. That's
Correct.
the key focus. And then in the recommendation was development of affordable rental housing. Okay. When you say development of affordable rental housing, can it be acquisition, rehabilitation? So it falls under this number 2 category.
Correct.
Any of those. Okay. So the other question I have here is, can you give me, I know this is very conceptual, so maybe staff can help me on this. If you have the magic wand, can you give an example of how this money is going to be? I don't like to use the word spent. We're investing the money.
I can. Permanent supportive housing for homeless. That's
I know.
the hope. Yeah.
How does it? Give me some more concrete. When you say how many units, because we're only investing one million here.
So
how far will it go? That's what I'm getting at.
I mean, it won't go that far.
There
It's
you go.
awfully
Okay.
expensive to go.
Okay.
So if you're asking me, our research tells us 15 to 20 units of supportive housing, and we think we could build with the money that we have allocated for that.
So it will be basically like apartments.
Yes.
Apartments. Okay.
Yes.
Not permanent supportive. It's affordable housing.
It'll be continuing supportive housing for the homeless. It'd be the next step out of the shelter is what we're really looking to do.
But there'll be some kind of, when I say permanent supportive housing, when I say supportive housing, is,
Well, it means
will
there'll
there
be
some kind of case management?
Correct. There'll be
things like
case
that?
management, supportive services there to help these people move along to the next step out of the shelter.
So are you looking for someone that we can partner with to provide this kind of
You
services?
hit the nail right on the head.
Oh,
That's
okay,
exactly
okay.
where-
Yeah, because
Yeah,
the money, I was
Yeah.
focusing on the money. It's not going to go that far.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just,
No,
I'm
to be
just
honest
being
with you,
realistic here.
It's all premature, frankly, but we had to get this report in by the end of this month or next month, right?
This month.
This month, yeah.
By the end of
So
the month.
we've had some conceptual discussions. We're somewhat hopeful we're on the right track here, but we just had to get in what we knew to date. So, but we have a pretty good idea conceptually what the project looked like. We have a pretty good idea where it should be, but just getting to that place is there's a couple steps we have to jump through first, and we'll have to flesh this out more than we currently have.
And we have sufficient time because I read
Yes,
it's
we do.
2030.
Correct.
When the money needs to be invested.
Right.
Used,
No,
so
no,
funds have to be.
invested. Focus on me.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
We're investing
invested.
here. We're not spending money here.
Yes.
The mayor is correct,
We're just
100%.
Correct.
We need to invest that by 2030. Okay, so, good. So is the proposal broad enough for us to kind of give us some kind of wiggle room later on in terms of when
Absolutely.
you change direction? Because the
Absolutely.
key again is develop affordable rental housing.
We can flesh this out in many different ways. We just had to make some notice of the way we wanted to allocate the funds, and I think they've done a pretty masterful job keeping it loose to where we can tailor it any way we need to going
Okay.
forward. Yeah.
All right, very good. Good job. Thank you. All right, any question? Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for clarifying a couple of those questions or items. Just one question regarding the eligibility activities. Item number 5, the acquisition and development of non-congregate shelter, meaning the current shelter we have would not qualify.
This would be developing a new shelter.
Okay.
Developing a
So
new
it
congregate
wouldn't
shelter.
allow us for funding.
No,
Okay.
there is no,
And then what is the definition of non-congregate shelter really
meaning
mean?
everyone would have their own separate space. So it would not be an open space for everyone to be in one area. Everyone would have their own separate rooms or separate areas.
Okay, so more apartment style or mini homes? Would mini
Correct.
homes qualify? Okay, perfect.
Continuing the theme that we were just discussing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I know. All right, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Mr. Coops?
Yes, the question is, we have other monies that we've acquired and not spent. We have this million that we're trying to allocate. Are there others monies to add to it?
There is. We're also looking at adding our CHODO funds, our Community Housing Development Organization funds, to this amount of funds to make the pot a little bit bigger and make the funds go farther in our investment.
And what would you say that amount is currently?
That's 1.8 million approximately
Of CHODO.
of CHODO and
then you will have
1.3.
$1 million here, so you
Yeah.
could be tickling $3 million?
Correct.
So I'm glad you answered the question on number 5, because non-congruent means the one that our current homeless shelter, that would be called a congregant because they're all living under one roof. And so when we separate and put them in their own living unit, that's non-congregate. Does that sound right?
Correct. It's basically you're not in an open space, so everyone would have their own private spaces, would be a non-congregate.
I want to clarify, though, that so what we're looking to move forward with, we understand that we have an ongoing sunk cost with the shelter on keeping it operating as long as we continue to operate it. What we're looking for with the second step is to not fund it continuously. We would use funds that are not eligible for a lot of other uses, non-general fund monies that we could use for that, and then that operation would be handled by folks that are pouring money into it and be eligible for loss of funds, et cetera, that we wouldn't be doing annually. So we're not looking to take on an annual general fund encumbrance with the secondary project we're just talking about.
Those that would utilize this new potential housing, will the city have responsibility for their activities? Are they going to buy the groceries for them? They're going to get a car for them? They're going to take care of medical? How involved will we become?
We won't be involved.
Oh, that's it. Okay. So we provide the actual structure,
Yeah.
and then we have no other
We don't even provide the
responsibility?
structure. We provide, we're trying to provide a financial incentive that makes it worthwhile for a developer to come in and develop that kind of project. Because it's always about the money, of course.
Like bridge money.
Exactly.
All right, and then he would
100% right.
receive rent from a third party because the ones that are living there wouldn't qualify or have income to do it.
Correct.
All right?
Yeah, they have, you'd be surprised. There's actually a little more money than you think following some of those folks. But you're 100% right. The incomes would be coming from agencies other than us.
And if we were to do a structure like this of course would be at prevailing wage.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Definitely.
well, yes, it would be. Yeah, you're 100% right. There'd be public money involved.
And so if we were to approve what we're doing tonight and add it to what we know to be the CHODO fund, have the 3 million, is that enough to, would we at least acquire a property that we could build on later, or what do you do?
That's the hiccup that we have now. Prior to the state of California making it impossibly hard to acquire property and actually develop it for any kind of housing use, because of the Surplus Lands Act. Not that I'm on my hobby horse on this, but so what seemed like a pretty simple task of buying property and working with the developer to do this becomes more complex. So more likely, an independent developer would purchase the land, and that we would, quote unquote, provide the construction cost for that project as our contribution to that project going forward. That's the kind of theory we're looking at now.
So looking back at what the state of California has changed the rules about assembly uses can sell their parking lots for low-income housing. We could be a part of that situation?
We could. We've actually reached out to several religious institutions that have that opportunity to do that, and we've not found a taker yet. So,
You know, I'm always careful with the city attorney's terminology of assembly uses.
yeah, but that law is pretty specific about
And
that works.
churches. Is
Yeah.
it churches or assembly uses? You're not gonna build it on the Kiwanis parking lot, but
It's,
you're gonna
it's
build.
religious
you know.
institutions. Yeah.
Religious institution.
Okay, so that's where we are on that side of
Right,
the coin.
right.
All right. Thank you, that's all I have.
And yes, that is something we're interested in, and we'll continue to look forward for that as well.
But thank you for remembering your training.
Well,
All right, thank you, Mr. Coops. Councilmember Dutton.
I have no questions.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
so moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Coops, seconded by Councilmember Sanchez to open the public hearing. Without objection, that will be the order. Anyone who'd like to speak on this very interesting topic? It's funding.
Not seeing any, move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Danton, seconded by Councilmember Sanchez to close the public hearing. Without objection, that will be the order. All right, gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion, Mayor,
All right, go
to
ahead.
adopt resolution number 23-10.
And I'll second the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Danton, seconded by Councilmember Coops to adopt resolution 23-10. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Coops,
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilmember Dutton,
Aye.
Mayor Santinez.
Aye. All right, there are no ordinances or resolutions for consideration. There are no consideration items. And so we're moving on to consent calendar. Does anyone have any conflicts on the consent calendars?
Yes, Mayor, I need to recuse myself from item 14E and 14F
14E and F.
due to property located within 500 feet.
All right, anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, I have a conflict having to do with 14G as in gopher. I have property within 500 feet of that project, so I'll recuse myself from that.
Okay, 14G for Councilmember Coops. Is there anyone who would like to pull an item for separate discussion? Nope, there being none. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar with the recusals as duly noted?
Motion.
Second?
Motion by Councilmember Sanchez, seconded by Councilmember Coops to approve the consent calendar with the recusals as stated. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Coops,
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilmember Dutton,
Aye.
Mayor Santinez.
Aye. All right, moving along. Council reports. Councilmember Coops.
I have nothing to report this evening. I'm going to give the time to someone else.
Okay. Councilmember Sanchez.
Likewise, nothing to report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, wow. Councilmember Dutton.
I got something to report. Wasn't today a nice day with the sun shining for a change?
As a weatherman.
I think that's unanimous. I was warm. My feet weren't wet. Let's have another one tomorrow. That's all I got for my report.
I think, oh yeah, it's going to be dry tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, so you got all the time now.
Yeah, I just got all the time. So I have 1 hour, 10 minutes for my, I just want to report that on March 23rd, we had the welcome event for the 37 Oaks. I'm very excited about this group of entrepreneurs. In a nutshell, these are Bellflower residents, for the most part, or close to Bellflower, who has a product already that they're trying to scale up. And so we're trying to help them learn how to scale up their business. And I think the person doing the instruction, I think she's very knowledgeable. I did a official welcome, and I watched the initial presentation. She's very knowledgeable. I think these business owners has a great potential to learn more from this 37 Oaks program. And I encourage all those who have a product and they want to scale up. And the only condition, I think, is, if I remember correctly, is they should be committed to establishing a brick and mortar, preferably in the city of Bellflower. And secondly, I was invited to the first regional invention convention, sponsored by the Archdiocese of Los Angeles at St. Dominic Savio. It was an amazing event. The students, grade school students, had wonderful inventions. These are very young kids, and I was very impressed with their invention. I couldn't think of doing that when I was in grade school. So they've come a long ways. So with that, this meeting is now being adjourned to the next regular meeting of the Bellflower City Council at 5:30 p.m. on Monday, April 10, 2023. This meeting is adjourned.